Well, hey there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to the SCC here in, well, we're in North America, but we're going to be watching Europe all day today. So, it is a typical Thursday, but a little atypical as well. We are kicking off things with the SCC, but we're only doing 3 sets today, and of course 3 sets tomorrow since we have a bye week in the SPL. So if you're staying tuned today, we're going to be going through all of Europe. Tomorrow we're going to be going through all of North America, and that means that we're going to be going through a lot of very interesting things at Score. I got Niflheim on the desk with me, and again, we're going to be going through what I expect to be some very fun games throughout this day. I think we're kicking things off here with the Ferrymen going up against the Wargs, but then I think a little bit later we have the Mambo, who I had it written down, and then of course I decided to start talking versus the Scorpions, and then the Ravens versus the Gladiators. And then tomorrow, again, North America, things like that. So we can go ahead and take a peek, see at the schedule, and see what you guys are going to be going through today, and what we will be spectating. There's the word. I was going to say experiencing. Commentating. That one also works pretty well to describe the thing that we're going to be doing. Here with the Ferrymen and the Wargs, Mambo Scorpions, and then later today the Ravens taking on the Gladiators. And if I remember correctly in the standings, a couple of these teams looking pretty solid. Unfortunately for the first two, maybe not so much. Neither have a win yet between the Ferrymen and the Wargs, so they're still looking for it. Meanwhile, the Mambo and the Ravens still undefeated as of yet. That's going to change at some point. I think next week they are going to be the first match we have in Europe. So that is going to be one that has to change by that point. Whether or not they both go up to 4-0 today, we'll have to see with the Scorpions and the Gladiators potentially trying to run that line at them. But the topic of the conversation of the moment right now, yeah, dude, it's early. What's wild is an hour ago I was like super awake, and I guess my brain froze in the last hour.
Iced you out.
Yeah, and maybe it's because, I don't know, we didn't have super in-depth conversations. I'm not blaming you. I'm saying, I didn't bring anything up to, talk incredibly at length for, and so my words is not doing so good.
Yeah, man.
Okay, that one was on purpose. The Ferrymen taking on the Wargs. That's going to be the conversation at hand. And, of course, being able to look at them. If we look at the Ferrymen, there's going to be one notable difference that's coming off for this team immediately. So Azrael, Ice, Hawk, Streak Up. Very, very typical lineup for these guys. But it's going to be Calvin playing in the support role this time around. And that's just something, especially when you're leaning towards the bottom, it's not too unexpected to maybe see, even if it's just a 1 week swap, if it's a permanent swap, whatever it ends up being. It's something that is definitely going to change the pace of the game, especially considering what we've seen out of Rodwin. I would argue maybe some of the best support play in Europe, second only maybe to Trix Tank to me. And maybe proof of that is that Trix Tank mainstay roster there for Hex Mambo, but when Trix Tank couldn't make it to the last LAN, they brought in Rotwin, and it looked incredibly good for them.
Yeah, I am curious about this change because the 6 Ferrymen have been a squad that have been kind of rotating their support, haven't they? At some points it was Okeanos, then Calvin. Now we're moving over through Rotwin, or rather, flip that. We've got Calvin now. So curious to see that they're changing this highly important, just crazy impactful role so consistently. Maybe they're saying that that's probably the progenitor of some of their problems, having some struggles. Establishing pressure in the long lane seems to have been a consistent issue for this squad. I'd argue that's a little bit more P's and B's oriented, because when you look at them, they don't generally play those highly aggressive hunters. See a whole lot of Freya in that lane, and she's pretty decent, has decent early game damage, but doesn't exactly clear waves like a Cupid does, or a Medusa or something like that. So curious to see it this late in the game as well. We are in the last portion of the year. We're approaching winter. Worlds is coming up, and replacing a role like that, I think, especially in a meta like right now, where support has got their hands on every single interaction, just feels a little bit strange.
Yeah, it's one of those areas where you straight up have it's this week and next week. You have 2 weeks of SCC play, regular season, that's still going to be happening. And then, like you said, December is going to be incredibly important for them. They're going to be taking on the Niflheim Wargs on the other side. Again, another team who is unwinning as of yet. Both of these teams 0-3. And again, they made some changes coming into this phase, Mifflin, right? Kha'Zix switching from solo over to support, bringing in Bevy Monster as the solo laner, which, if I remember correctly, no, Bevy Monster was in solo. My mind, for some reason, wanted to throw him into the duo lane. That might have been phases past. But they are also in this area where they're looking for their first win. And is honestly maybe in a very unfortunate scenario that I think a lot of their matchups, if I remember correctly, they've not had necessarily just an easy time. But I also remember And I think it might have been this game where we were watching, wanting to see maybe a little more out of the jungle, a little more aggression, kind of lean on the composition, because I think outside of the Agni here, most of what they were playing, at least in these highlights, were spot on draft-wise. It was just the style of play maybe thrown out on the field.
Yeah, very, very slow play, and I think that probably did have something to do with the matchup. When you're lined up against Hex Mambo, you're lined up against the Ravens, it's very easy to, I suppose, psych yourself out. Oh no, that's some of the best world champions ever. Oh no, that's adapting, the King Cannon on the other side. So we're going to give them a little bit more space, play a little bit more subdued, and I think that this team, the Niflheim Wargs, play at their best when they're willing to play their own game, when they get aggressive, when they have that confidence, and their drafts reflect it. Every single one of their drafts, as you said, has just got wild, aggressive tendencies, lanes that you could play through very consistently, and they just weren't doing it in the previous sets. So it tells me, sure, play on field change, but your draft stayed what you're comfortable playing. I think you have to play comfortable to look good, though.
It is still an interesting conversation, though, because it's one of those things, when you look at the standings, 6 teams from both regions, all very important, but I would argue that still very important just because every team is going to that road to Worlds, right? If you saw it, the blog went up a couple of days ago kind of outlining it. You can see the Phase 3 playoffs for SPL, and then you can see how it's going to work for the SCC, both in North America and in Europe. And I'll continue this conversation when we jump into picks and bans to make sure that things can keep on rolling for them. But if you are anybody in the SCC, you're going to that event. You're going to be playing. The difference is going to be if you're 6th seed, let's say, which for these two, that's more than likely at this point, right? One of you, you're getting thrown in with the 4th seed and the 1st seed. And so it's going to be a lot harder to get into those top 2. If you're 5th seed, it's the 2nd and the 3rd. Feels like the gap maybe is a little bit easier. Granted, given the history so far, we haven't gotten to see that much success from them. And so there is like an interesting group talk to me looking down the line for these teams, even though this one is just going to determine which hard matchups they have to face at that point.
Yeah, but it gives you like a leg up, I suppose. You've got opportunities to improve your seeding as the weeks go on. I think this is a must-win for both of these teams. Battle of the bottom, both unwinning. Can't end this set like that.
Yeah,
one of them is going to come out with 1 dub. That's just the nature of competition. And then having, 2-3 more weeks in the SEC could really skyrocket whoever wins here up to, I believe, around 4th seed, 3rd seed even, potentially, if they win out on all of them. So a journey of 1,000 steps begins with 1. You have to find it here.
And like you said, good news is somebody has to, right? The days of ties, that's like season 2. We don't talk.
Yeah, that happened to me. Yeah, I did not like that.
You can go 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2, but there was no none of that 3-game stuff.
A lot of 0-2s for me.
And a lot of 0-2s. Well, a lot of 1-1s in there for Niflheim. A lot of
no.
I'm rewriting
2 1-1s.
I'm rewriting history.
And it's Barracuda got DDoS for one of my 1s.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, gone are the days of ties. Here are the days of 3s. As the picks and bans come through, Yamoja, Ratatoskr, and Daji get banned out there by the Styx Ferrymen with the Chernobog first pick, which again maybe isn't too surprising given what we've seen over here in Europe. Whereas it's the Khepri, the Hades, and the Terra, alongside now a Cupid that gets picked up. And the Cupid, honestly, kind of surprising to see a Chernobog going over Cupid considering what we've seen out of him.
Yeah, if you don't watch the European SEC, that's a completely out of left field pick. But we watched the European SEC, and we know that Chernobog, if it wasn't Chernobog, wouldn't have been Cupid. It probably would have been Heimdall.
Honestly, I was going to say, I'm surprised it's not Heimdall.
It probably would have just been Heimdall. Maybe they're just so used to seeing it banned that they didn't even look at him on the screen. But you've got some global presence. You've got okay boxing potential. Maybe some of the itemization changes could really suit Chernobog. I'm thinking a little bit of penetration on Devourers. You can go for that standard auto attacker Executioner.
Yeah.
He's got a very strong stem off that Living Nightmare. So I think that Chernobog is not necessarily bad. It's just that how are you going to fight up against the Cupid? You're probably going to try not to. It's just not a 1v1 that you really should be interested in taking.
And most of the time when we see a Chernobog anyway, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to, like, once I get ult online, and then, like, maybe another 5-6 levels, I'm going to start just making ridiculous rotations. Like, okay, cool, we're going to make a suddenly 3-man gank on the solo lane. Good luck over there. Although now that it's Guan Yu, you know, that's a lot easier, at least on the other side, to respond to. 3 people show up in your lane, you just jump on a horse and run away. Cupid seems like he'll be decently safe as well from some ganks, not all ganks, but some ganks. They go for the Artio, and the Hunbats in response to those pickups from the Wargs. And the Hunbats, I think we've been seeing a lot. RDO has been kind of flexible as of late. We've seen some teams in the SBL throwing it over in support, some still picking it up for solo. And then a Vulcan pickup. But if I'm looking at like just top 3 to top 3, everything that the Wargs have been grabbing has been very popular in the SBL.
Yeah, just standard SPL selections from the Wargs, but the RDO on the other side looks pretty good. You know, we've seen Hunbots from some teams in the SPL. As of now, looking at both these compositions, I would say that the Wargs have likely just won out, though. I'm with you there. I love the Cupid, what it brings to every single team fight, how it plays in the lane, really does control those neutral farms very, very well. Vulcan now with the backfire change, it's got a pretty decent matchup into the RDO. Beforehand, it was RDO's going to walk you down in the Druid stance, get you in that cripple field, and you're just stuck. Now it's, hey, backfire still works, but I'm going to go ahead and blitz you and simultaneously get out of there.
I can actually still hurt you.
Have the damage, have the escape, so I like that matchup for the Vulcan. Guan Yu, I've seen fallen off a little bit recently. Feels like a lot of the teams have figured out, you know, his healing's really good, man, but the laning phase still isn't all that great. And the latest portions of the match is really all about that healing. That's mainly what you bring to a team fight. You're not able to engage or initiate nearly as well at like 6-item slot on both teams because Guan Yu's not exactly the tankiest guy on the planet. But I think that being able to force itemization from Styx Ferrymen is going to be pretty valuable. Like you get to force out some Divine Ruins, potentially some Onks now as well. HP 5 from Jingchen, healing from Guan Yu, healing from Cupid.
Yeah.
It kind of dictates how you're allowed to play the game.
Well, I've got great news for the Ferrymen, and that's that Merlin is really good at the Divine Ruin thing, right? Nice, big, wide abilities, one of the best thing he is, and they lock him in for mid lane. The Xingqian, you had mentioned it and kind of glanced on it, but you know, like, you look at Hunbats, granted, admittedly more ability-based, but still some auto attacks in there. I look over to the Chernobog. It feels like the Xingqian's good in that regard. Also, what with the Terra gone, the Khepri gone, the Emoja gone, the Emir gone, the Kumba gone, you're starting to get a little lower in the list of Guardians there. So I like the Xingqian lock-in just for what he's able to bring in terms of speed. It's going to be the Cthulhu on the other side. Which has me crossing my fingers that this RDO is the support and the Cthulhu's in solo, because we've not seen a lot of success when Cthulhu is anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, the only person who was ever fighting the battle of Cthulhu support's pretty good was Inbound, and, well, he's not in this match, so we're not going to have to worry about it too much. I think it is very likely that the Cthulhu is slated for solo lane. That's a matchup that we've become accustomed to seeing as of recent. And it's not one that's very explosive. Guan Yu doesn't have a whole lot of solo potential, should be able to get pressure in the lane, should be able to move in towards those blue buffs aggressively, but as far as 1v1s or like rotations, they both generally wait till like level 15, 16.
Well, it feels like a lot of these picks are going to be waiting till level 15, 16 before we can see him get super active. We'll find out in game number 1. Kali, I think, falls into that category of late game hyper carry that is surprisingly good early on. It always catches me off guard, which it really shouldn't. Admittedly, half of that is just Scream. Scream was playing a lot of Kali and doing well at level 3. I don't know how much that applies to every jungler, because Scream is just kind of different sometimes. But we'll have to watch Sarpei. A very common pick for the Wargs, or at least for this jungler. And so we'll have to keep our eyes on that. But it does feel like, I mean, even looking at the Merlin, like, I say the Ferryman. And this draft, I mean, with the Fear No Evil is going to get aggressive. Maybe with the RDO is going to get aggressive. But I see a draft that is really good on defense. Maybe not the thing you want going into a Smite game, but damn if you're going to try to get through their defenses.
Well, I mean, the Wargs have slated a draft that's pretty decent on offense in that once you're at the offensive state of the game, you've just got a whole lot of damage output. So I'm not so concerned about their siege potential, whether or not they actually decide to, or whether or not they find themselves in a position, rather, to utilize that siege will to be seen. But you bring up the Merlin, and I think you're right to do it. Sure, that's one of the main proponents of the strong defense of the Styx Ferrymen, but I just don't love Merlin as a pick in general right now. He's not really got the damage output to control a laning phase, really slow, needs a whole lot of that itemization, and then really, he's not even the best at objective burn anymore, because we've seen the Hunter mids.
Yeah, good point.
Why go for a Merlin when you could just have like an AMC that does the same amount of burst damage, more burst damage rather, and has pretty decent, if not similar, objective burn potential.
And just better fight.
Just better fights, better scaling. Second Hunter's always good. I don't know. I'm not a Merlin fan right now.
Yeah, and not helping them much, looking it up, is the fact that they're 0 for 4 in Merlin games so far. So it has not been super successful, I guess is the polite term. It has done nothing but losing. Granted, as we saw in the standings, right, these teams have been, what, 0 and 3 each, 1 win between the two of them, 1 individual game win, I should say, between the two of them. That's the Ferrymen, who are 1 and 6 versus 0 and 6 on the other side. And you'll never guess it, but that 1 win had
Mambo.
a double hunter.
Oh.
Well, quote-unquote double hunter. It was AMC and Freya for the Ferrymen. It was good, right? Something that maybe we expect. I'm honestly, Mifflin, I'm going to be honest with you. I think we're in for a long haul. Looking at the drafts of this game, I feel like it's going to shoot the distance. And I'm wondering if these teams are, like, because it's where do you find that pressure, right? And that's kind of where my mind is at. I feel like you can see a little bit of Hunbats early on, a little bit of Kali early on. But I don't know that either of these teams, like maybe the Kali plus the Vulcan are going to be able to find it. Honestly, maybe the duo lane, because they've been going for blood the entire time. Kha'Zix's super low. But it doesn't seem, well, Calvin has no mana to work with. Streak Up doesn't want to make a mistake. So they're going to have to back off a little bit right there.
Don't worry about Kha'Zix. That's Jing Shen. He's only low for a couple of moments. That HP 5 will get him right back to healthy pretty quickly. So even looking at, like, in pocket, both supports holding on to Hog, I would argue Calvin lost that fight because Calvin also lost some of his HP and doesn't have nearly as much sustain as a Jing Shen, who, well, look at him. He's already back to like 90%. He's going to continue to heal just by hitting the wave. Mana battle also favoring the Niflheim Wargs. We're starting to approach that portion of the duo lane where you could start actually playing for the 2v2, and I'd argue Cupid might just be able to win the 2v2 on his own for his team. So where do you establish pressure? If you're on the Wargs, it's always the lane that's got a Cupid in it. It's always the duo lane with this style of draft, and Jing Chen's pretty aggressive in their own right. If you're the Styx Ferryman, it's wherever Ice is and not until he's level 5, right? You're not exactly looking for the 1v1 in mid. You don't want to play into that 2v2 against Jing Shen and Cupid, and then a Cthulhu takes an actual hour to get online. He just really is, hey, I'm really strong, but in a team fight. I'm going to land a whole lot of CC, but I'm not doing the damage on my own. I need my team to be there. So Azriel probably going to be left alone on an island for the most part. Maybe some rotations to help out with those blue buffs. A standard answer we've seen to the Cthulhu solo is just invade his blue, and it generally just works. So could control Ice's pathing, but you are right to say this is a game that could go the distance.
Well, there's the Fields of Love. Immediate tossback. Level 5 for the Wargs. Heart Bomb finds the damage and gets first blood there for Spudio. A well-timed shot, well-timed ults, and a good kill to kick things off, 4.5 in.
That's simple stuff. Just play around your Cupid, man. A Heart Bomb is a ridiculous tool this early on, which is why we see all these hunters in the SPL, all these duo lanes, just really look at aggression, because every single one of them said, look, if you get the first round of Scepter, you're probably getting the second round of Scepter. And if you got the second round of Scepter, you're getting the third. And if you got the third, you got a 2-level lead. So it's just that aggressive nature, high-pressure duo lanes that have been succeeding for the most part. And one of these two duo lanes is just much more aggressive. Could see Calvin try and tick over to level 5 and then drag his attention towards mid, which it seems to be the case. Just doesn't want any part of that duo lane, doesn't want to be involved. And if Calvin leaves, should likely force Kha'Zix to leave. Maybe Streak Up likes his odds better in a 1v1.
Yeah, but I think you had even said that trying to step up to the Cupid as a Chernobog, like you had mentioned this in Bix and Bans, maybe not the best idea.
Yeah, just don't get heart bombed, you know?
Yeah, just don't, as long as you don't get heart bombed.
You've got an okay matchup too. If you do get heart bombed, you could just jump into the wall, right? And it's like basically an Aegis. You're not getting stunned. You might not be able to get into a wall if Fields of Love is out, but no, it's not going to be perfect situations all the time for Spudio.
Well, that's only up like once every, what, like 90 seconds?
Like anyway. a minute or so?
You got plenty of time. There's plenty of moments in that minute that you could fight without.
And they got a free item called Beads, and that makes you immune to the cripple as well. Like, I'm talking myself out. Maybe everybody's good into Cupid.
Oh, and maybe we'll find out. I guess it depends on how that goes. We'll have to keep our eyes on the level lead. It was level 5 first for the Wargs. There's a Fields of Love thrown a little deep. Calvin has rotated in, gets the root onto Spudio. There's the stun as well. The damage is good. Not quite good enough. The healing able to counteract some of that. Now Kha'Zix is here. Goes for the ult. Misses everyone. Unfortunately, Streak Up goes up into the air, comes right back down. And then it is just the distance between Calvin and Kha'Zix that keeps him alive over there. Fear No Evil used on right just to make sure the blue buff gets secured for Azrael. Nobody's going to come out of this one with a kill.
Yeah, that is a tough situation for Kha'Zix. Who's like, I got both of them. I got neither of them. All you really needed to hit was Calvin. When you're that close to the tower line, grab the support, take the free kill. Best case scenario, you burn beads off Streak Up. Why focus him when you've got such an easy target like the RDO right there? Kha'Zix loses out on his own ultimate, forces the rotation from his own mid laner. Itori there for the follow-ups, shows up and says, nobody got CC'd. I'm going to walk back to lane. Just a wash for the Niflheim Wargs, but at the end of the day, probably goes better for them than they would have expected considering the positioning of how that gank had started. It was the Styx Ferrymen getting aggressive. Spudio tries to force the 1v1, not realizing it was a 2v1 the entire time. Calvin loops around, and Spudio seemed to be a little bit adamant in not using those beads. Takes a lot more damage than I would have expected, realizing that he was likely to make it out alive, but eventually took a little bit too much. The pressure built up. He said, I'll use the relic. And, well, now for the next 85 seconds, won't have access to any form of CC immunity. If Ice Ice wasn't forced to use Fear No Evil to confirm his own blue buff, you'd better expect Ice Ice to be around that dual lane. Still hovering nearby, but still waiting on that ultimate.
Yeah, not as big of a threat when the Fear No Evil's not there.
Not a threat.
Yeah, well, at 8 minutes, Hunbats does not mean anything to me if the Fear No Evil's not there. Maybe a good overhand smash for something like that, a nice little purple buff invade, and steal away by the Ferryman. Not much else that can really impact the game too heavily. I do think of something, you had mentioned it earlier, how, first off, for Azrael specifically, the Cthulhu isn't necessarily one who's going to be doing too much until the team fight phase. And I can't remember, it was Haddix or Hardcore. Someone got a first blood like within the first 3 minutes on a Cthulhu, and it was the wildest thing that we had ever seen. And, well, maybe not the wildest thing we'd ever seen. That's egregious. But it was really wild, though, considering what we've seen out of him. Unfortunately, now getting out-pressured, not able to do too much about a blue buff. And so he's going to have to be a little more careful. The Pythax piece has been kind of a standard start, I think, for everybody down the line, for the Cthulhu, but also through and through. Maybe the one that's most interesting is the Merlin pickup, because we haven't seen a lot of stacking on the Merlin.
Haven't seen a lot of Merlin in general.
Good point. Maybe that's why.
If it's not Benny Q, it's like Moswall, and if it's not Moswall, I suppose it's Hawk now. Merlin has just not been incredibly popular as of recent. Book of Thoth, I think just fine on him. You're going to get a whole lot of power. Standard infusion, just standard mage item. You're not going to have to worry about your mana nearly as much either. But I would be surprised to see him double stack. That's where the interest comes in. It's an incredibly slow style of build nowadays. You need to get full stacks to get the penetration on Warlock, so pretty unlikely. Seems as if we're going to have parity in the mid lane between Itori and Hawk. Just penetration, power, standard stuff. The mages don't need to get too creative with their builds anymore. It's not exactly like Soul Gem, Soul Reaver meta.
I have to be careful. A couple of ults, Itori and Spudio, thrown out on the Wargs. Neither staying long enough to connect. Sprint used by Calvin. Now, I was going to talk about the supports anyway, so maybe we can focus in on them as they try for a purple buff invade. It has been what is going to be a Pridwin locked in for Kha'Zix versus the early, I mean, at this rate, I'm going to assume Sovereignty, since that's kind of been the very fast fizz pickup for supports that we're going to be seeing out of Calvin. And I guess it kind of makes sense when you think about what they're going up against, more or less, or at least where Kha'Zix is throwing himself, which is ult in all time, and the other side where it's, oh no, they've got a Kali and a Cupid. I'm appropriately worried about this. Definitely feels like it's going to be some fun itemization, maybe something more than that, though. Is this early Pyromancer picked up by the Wargs? They're going to secure it, although it does not come without a little bit of cost. Aggression from the Ferrymen. And that is worth mentioning. Last week we were watching, they were on 9-9. This week, 9-10. Easier to kill Pyromancer, easier to kill Gold Fury. Might be seeing some of these teams escalate where they keep their focus on the macro.
Yeah, it could Surprised to see the Wargs actually go for Pyromancer as opposed to Gold Fury. You'd think you want them fighting as close to the dual lane as possible. I say that because Streak Up can get involved in a Pyromancer fight, and you just won't see Spudio do the same. That global presence from the Chernobog makes it very difficult to take fights on the opposite side of the map. We haven't seen a Living Nightmare just yet, which is a bit counter to what we've seen in like the North American SCC. They're also apt to go towards this pick every now and then. It's generally, hey, I want to get over to the Soul Lane fight. Yeah. Oh, you're invading my blue? Good luck. There's 4 of us now. What are you going to do about it? Whereas in the EU, I feel like the main portion of his kit that they value is, I could jump at a wall. Your Heart Bomb doesn't work anymore.
Well, maybe the Heart Bomb can get a little more online for him here. A lot of CC onto Calvin. Thrown to the wall. Itori, Spudio, not throwing out any damage to help out Kha'Zix here. They're just not in the right position to deal with it. And so a couple of ults thrown out again. Calvin, at half health, just kind of says, oh, and walks away.
Yeah, that was super weird. Because, like, Spudio and Itori were there. They were hitting him before Kha'Zix got involved. They just took the scenic route through the jungle, weren't super interested in the fight, I suppose. Kha'Zix doesn't get the memo, actually finds a pretty decent initiation. Yep. Throwing him directly at the wall, not exactly where I would have thrown him, maybe like into the jungle next time, but I don't know, feels like it was still enough CC that had Spudio and Itori just kept their eyes on the ball, likely would have got there in time to at least fight out, potentially find that kill. Instead, fizzles back to neutral.
Well, it's going to be Oracle Harpies locked in for the Ferrymen. A lot of attempts at kills coming out from the Wargs. It's not a lot of kills that have been happening. Yeah, it was a nice little movement from Hawk to create some space, and unfortunately nothing for the Wargs to continue to chase him down. And you had called it, but pretty much parity as far as the mid lane goes. A little bit ahead for Itori in terms of the build, which is he's got a tier 1. It's not even that big of a bump for them. Otherwise, it is.
I wonder what that book's going to be, though.
Well, yeah, what book?
Yeah, what book are you buying, my guy? Surely not, like, Book of the Dead. He's not a Polynomicon user.
No.
Is Soul Reaver that good that you want to third slot it on a Vulcan? I mean, maybe.
We've definitely seen it. I feel like it comes in 4th, though, most of the time.
Yeah.
If it comes in at all.
If it comes in at all. Third slot, Soul Reaver is like, hey, Soul Reaver used to have penetration on it, so it was pretty good to pick up at that portion. Doesn't do that anymore. Generally, if you see mages want to get like a little bit of additional burst in their abilities, like Soul Gem seems to be the answer. I'll keep my eyes on that one. It's a little bit of an aberration, slightly different from the standard.
Definitely not maybe the thing you were wondering or thinking of initially. Gold Fury just burned down. I mean, look, after we were talking about it, and while Itori has ult, by the way, the Ferrymen just walk up and burn it down, even though Merlin's burn has maybe fallen behind some of the other hunters that exist in mid lane. Doesn't necessarily matter. There's no hunter in mid lane, and you're just going to be able to do it maybe the best in the game. With the better secure on the other side, the Ferrymen, that is, now have, what, 1,200, about 1,000 lead. And with that tower, they're really taking a swing over into their favor.
I mean, not a massive swing, though, is it? About a 1,300 separation between these two squads? I mean, it's the second neutral objective of this game that has gone down with just about 0 opposition. Nobody really grouping up the defense. No steal attempts, no dances. It's just we walked up, we pulled it, we got it. Wargs around the Pyro, now the Ferrymen around the Gold Fury themselves. Imagine we see the game fizzle for a little while. We're a couple seconds away from the Pyromancer respawning. Could just see that be the POI, but seems as if there's not really a whole lot to fight over. It's essentially an argument between two teams saying, hey, my composition is better at the 30-minute mark. Styx Ferrymen are like, yeah, we're just going to fear no evil. We're going to have Descent into Madness. There's going to be nothing you can do about it. And the Niflheim Wargs say, word, we're going to have Destruction. We're going to have Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. And we've got just a late-game Vulcan. That's going to be awesome. So we're not worried about it. So with both teams comfortable with the pace of the game so far, expect the pace to remain the same until we get to like 6-slotted all level 20s.
I am now even more attentive on Itori's build because I'm looking back just to see, and actually it's very convenient because Shinto played a lot of Vulcan this last week. And it was like this exact build, right?
Oh,
the
this
Thoth,
is it?
Yeah, the Thoth, Divine Ruin, Soul Reaver, and then
Oh,
Shard
I'd just be lying then.
a gem at the end. Well, I was looking it up because I was like, all right, so where do you go with this, right? What's everybody playing? And then when Shinto does it, I trust Shinto. Shinto went 8-1 and 5 with that, so I'm gonna just let him do what is, and see how it rolls for him. It is just surprising though, because like you said, well, I guess less surprising.
Yeah, I'm no longer
given
surprised. If Shinto's building it, I'm sold.
Well, I was gonna say the surprising factor to me is how not super invested so far Itori has been, right? I mean, we've seen a couple of rotations, but 0-0 and 0. Granted, it's not hard to be 0-0 and 0 when there's literally only one kill, and it's something your duo lane did 13 minutes ago. Yeah, like it has been a while for the kills to roll out, so you haven't necessarily had a huge impact. But when you have your ults, you're straight up just Vulcan. Feels like it could be great. Coin toss on the Pyromancer there. Ferrymen win it. They were the ones who pulled it initially. Keep them in the lead. And then up in the sky, Streak Up going for a fight or just trying to get out. Heart Bomb dodged out there because of the dash into the wall. Had to use the beads to avoid the Fields of Love, though. Vulcanel, just a little short. Not going to be able to find a kill there. And then CC immunity's all you need. Beads there. Make sure that Kha'Zix can't get the pull onto Calvin. I mean, the Ferrymen just come in, get the objective, and so far they're doing a great job staying disengaged and making the Wargs just waste all of their abilities.
Yeah, the Wargs decided not to fight around the Pyromancer itself, but once they realized there's an escape, they're like, we have to fight now.
And there's a Fear No Evil. Separates a couple. A nice team fight when you've got a Cthulhu on board. Itori's so low. And Azrael, yeah, with the amount of health you have, is going to be able to get that kill, but it goes 1 for 1. Ice dead in the back. Sarpei going to avoid the lockdown. The root from Calvin not there. Calvin just chasing out the kill on their own. Hawk left to the Sharks, and they're going to burn him down. So it's 2 on one side, and maybe 3 on the other. Streak Up uses the Aegis, trying to survive. The healing is there. But no, they're going to fall back on the Wargs with Calvin moving in. It feels like it's just RDO versus the world. Cthulhu's going to join into this. I'm not sure they're going to have enough damage between the two of them to get anything else.
No, that should spell the end of the engagement. Let's break down how it starts, right? Styx Ferrymen aggress onto the Pyromancer. Niflheim Wargs kind of step up, watch the Pyromancer die. I think the largest commitment we saw from the Wargs for a steal attempt was maybe a meatball from Itori. Otherwise, every single ultimate maintained throughout the entirety of the quote-unquote dance around the Pyromancer. Styx Ferrymen start to disengage, but they scatter across the map. Individual members here or there. Streak Up decides to rip cord with his own ultimate, tries to rotate over towards Spudio. So the Niflheim Wargs chase out there, saying, well, we didn't get the Pyromancer, but we could surely, with this split engagement, pick up something. Spend roughly 20 to 30 seconds chasing all the way around the map. Use a lot of their ultimates, don't get a whole lot of value. Nobody dies initially. Styx Ferrymen say, hey, they're on our side of the map. They no longer have ultimates. Let's fight it out. Styx Ferrymen, after retreating for 30 seconds, say, let's chase for 30 seconds. And then it's a 2-for-2 trade at the end of the day. Just a very curious pacing to that team fight where there's not a whole lot you're fighting over. And considering all the resources you had already used, there's not much you could have done had you even won the team fight immediately afterward. With a Fury now spawned up, imagine that's where we see this engagement start. But because both teams decided to make a commitment in this strange in-between time on objectives, there really isn't much that they can utilize to force the fight around gold. We're still waiting on relics to come back up. Ultimates are finally available once more. So maybe you can start rotating through. I'd argue Ice got a whole lot of onus in this next team fight. Make use of these burnt beads. 30 seconds on Sarpei, Itori, Spudio. Force the fight around them.
He has the ult, has the blink, and immediately he's going for the back line. Oni Fury pulled half health and leashed. Kha'Zix, Bevy go deep into the lines of the Ferrymen. Up to the sky goes Streak Up. Where he comes down is going to be interesting. Just straight back to where he was before. Sarpei dives deep and takes a lot of damage in the process. Has the destruction, keeps running, kills off Hawk, but the healing's not enough there. A kill, 1 for 1, going their favor. Great ult from Itori, but not a lot of damage on the back end. Instead, it's CC, it's control from the Ferrymen, just picking apart the Wargs as they marched in 1 by 1. Now, with the amount of CC, the knock-up, and the numbers advantage, they're going to move on forward with no problem. Bevy Monster super low. Calvin's going to get credit for the kill, and instead of chasing down Spudio and Itori, they're going to turn their eyes back towards the Fury.
Styx Ferrymen with a great counter engage there. Just wait for the Niflheim Wargs to overextend themselves. Itori, though, still got plenty of damage to play with. Azriel dropped a little too low, so Styx Ferrymen shouldn't be able to get the Gold Fury just yet. Might be able to reset, regroup, and try once more. But what I saw from the Wargs that opens that opportunity for the Ferrymen is the target selection from Sarpe. Sarpe decides, I'm getting a Hawk, and I'm going to die for it. Had Hawk been the target, or had Sarpe just focused his target, maybe you can rally around him, maybe you can group up and try and fight around your Kali. But because he decides to off-target, you need to communicate that to your team. Say, hey, I'm going to die, but I'm going to remove the Merlin. He's a major part of their team fight. I think that's a worthwhile trade. But what it seemed like was the entirety of the Niflheim Wargs say, yo, Sarpe's in. We got to help our boy, man. We got to get in there and make sure he gets out alive, so it's a 1-for-0 trade. But when you're that deep in a Tier 2 tower on the left-hand side, of course the Styx Ferrymen are going to be able to peel back in, fold in on themselves, and catch you out. If it was a reset, Sarpe's great. Fight around him. If it's communicated well, that's great. Let Sarpe die for the 1v1. But because the Niflheim Wargs try to have their cake and eat it too, they lose out major.
Yeah, not just on the kill, then pretty much everything afterward as well, right? The Fury goes their way, Pyromancer goes their way. So a lot of confidence just in those kills. Granted, it was a good chunk of kills for him. In terms of how this game has been going, it was one for, 18 minutes total. Now finally pushing, 3,000 gold, just about. If they get the Tier 1 in mid, it'll push them over. Fire Giant's the only big thing left on the board, and admittedly, as much burn as they have on the Ferrymen, Itori's got ult. And that's always going to be just enough to scare me away from a Fire Giant when I see a Vulcan on the other side who could just straight up snipe it out from underneath us.
So you got to play around the Vulcan then, right? Chase him out, force out that ultimate. Vulcan still has to rotate through. Yeah, go Sarpe on him. Send Ice in there. Once Ice uses Fear No Evil, I mean, his relevance to the team fight's pretty low.
If he goes 1-for-1, that's honestly good for a Hunbats.
Pretty decent. Pretty decent. You want to make sure that it's a decent team fight ultimate first off, but
yeah.
Otherwise, chase out. It's the Niflheim Wargs starting the Fire Giant. Looking at the Ferrymen, you got 2 on the left. Living Nightmare should be able to get you over to that right side fight, so won't be easy to sneak this one away. Holding on to the Fire Giant for a long time, though.
Calvin walks in, maybe a little too deep. Taking a lot of poke in the process. Can't get out of this one. Itori does drop the ult, though, and that is going to be maybe the opening they need. Now nobody's got the skewer. Ice already dropped the Fear No Evil. Didn't find too much in terms of pressure from it, and is barely staying alive. Burn from Merlin, good, but not enough to kill off Kha'Zix. Can't believe he was able to walk out of there. Meanwhile, Azriel is not going to be able to say the same thing. The front line gone from the Ferrymen, and the Wargs maybe moving a little too far forward. Sarpe, I don't know what his goal was there, but he definitely didn't achieve it.
I mean, he was set up, man. That was a great position to be a Kali in. Just there's 2 dead. I've got 3 right in front of me. Destruction's still available. Squishy. They're all squishies. We know that there's no more mobility available. I'm just going to get in there. I'm going to apply my stun. I'm going to pop Destruction. He walks up, doesn't apply his stun, doesn't pop Destruction, just dies. Tough stuff. Not exactly the position you want your Kali in, but still decent enough for the Wargs that they think they can pull the Fire Giant itself.
Yeah, strong enough. Look, you lose your jungler, and that's always going to end up hurting you. But back in 19 seconds, might be able to do something about it. Still 50-50ing the Fire Giant, though. That's going to be a little troublesome. Nope, Wargs just get this one. Streak up a little too late on the engage. Rest of the team not even there. And so they get 4 people with Fire Giant. Get to slow down the Ferrymen here. And maybe equalize some of this gold lead, right? The Ferrymen have had, since, the fight on left, they got a Tier 1. Nothing but the lead. Now it's finally getting pulled back the other way.
And I'd argue, I've always equated Fire Giants about 10,000 gold. That's what it feels like, at least. All the healing, the mana sustain, the additional power makes it very easy to play elongated fights, especially when you've already got a composition that's so good with sustain as the Wargs have got. So imagine we see them slow play around these structures, grab some towers, back up, pick up the Primal, maybe go to the Pyromancer as well. Plenty of gold on the map, and timing as it is should have the time to get all that gold as well. But you said it earlier, about 25 minutes ago, Styx Ferrymen just got a good draft for defense. It's so hard to fight your way through a Merlin when he's just grouped up under his Phoenix. So hard to fight your way through a Cthulhu when the game simplifies in a situation like this. It's very easy to heal your entire team and simultaneously find multi-man knockups in Descent into Madness. So difficult to fight through a Hun bots when you have to fight into him. It's very easy for him to blink forward and get that Fear No Evil onto a couple of key targets. So we'll see how the Wargs play it. I imagine it's slow, a poking, prodding war of attrition around these structures. Not enhanced Fire Giant, so they'll have to worry about these backdoor protections. Likely will wait on these minion waves. Keep your eye on Sarpei, though. If he pushes down through mid, could drag away at least one key piece of the Styx Ferrymen defense.
Either drag away one piece, maybe go for a kill if you can get them isolated, but also could just get the tier 2 on their own. We've seen that quite a few times. And he had a minion wave there. It's dead. And it is a 5-on-5 over in left. Not a lot of poke, but we had already mentioned and highlighted the defense that this team is going to be able to bring, especially now that it's late game, is just immeasurable. And there's going to be the Descent into Madness, the aggression from the Ferrymen, because they know what they have going for them. What a great Fear No Evil in the back. Azrael does go down, but they kill off Streak Up, they kill off Itori, and there's a lot of low health bars there for Ice. That's going to be a 3rd kill. All the carries gone for the Wargs, and they're looking for more. Kha'Zix burned down, double kill for Streak Up, and a clean sweep through 4 for the Ferrymen.
Just easy execution for the Ferrymen, too. Azrael slowly lumbers forward, dashes into 4, transforms, and backpedals the entire time. And instead of the Niflheim Wargs doing the standard responses, yo, Cthulhu transformed, let's walk away. It's going to be so easy to siege after this. It's, all right, Cthulhu transformed, kin-size users attack. Let's get in there and take them down. So everybody's focusing Cthulhu. Awesome, says the Styx Ferrymen. Ice goes in with a massive ultimate. Hawk's free casting the entire time. I don't think Streak Up got hit even once. Clean pickup, clean team fight. The Niflheim Wargs had a couple of options there. They could have tried to fully disengage after the Cthulhu ultimate, which not exactly easy with Cthulhu chasing you down, but certainly have got the tools for it. Bracer for movement speed. Everybody's maintaining their beads through that. If you're not in combat, you could even defensive blink. I think that's a worthwhile trade for the team fight ultimate that Cthulhu brings. Or just keep Sarpei pushing mid. He pushed the minion wave into the tower. Nobody rotated. You can have the rest 4-man core. The rest of the Niflheim Wargs play very defensively on the left. And Sarpei gets a free tier 2, or somebody rotates out. And then all of a sudden it's a 4v4 and a 1v1. And I love Kali's odds in a 1v1 against just about anybody at level 20 and nearly 6 slotted. Very strange pace to that team fight.
Yeah, interesting decisions. Unfortunately for the Wargs, well, with the Fire Giant secured, now lapsed, they lost all 4 of those buffs, didn't get any towers as far as I know. Maybe there was a tier 1 in mid that got knocked down. Lose a Phoenix. And the amount of gold they pulled back, it was what, 2,000, almost 3,000 for the Ferrymen prior to the Fire Giant. Chunked down to 1,000. Now back up to 6,500. It is absolutely insane for the Ferrymen right now. And while they still maybe don't have the best secure on their team for a Fire Giant, so far they've just had the best team fight, so I don't know that it really matters what the Wargs are bringing to it outside of potential objective steals. We'll have to see how they can change that. A lot of it feels like Mifflin. I mean, I look down, I see the Kali's 1-4. And it's not even oh, you're having a rough game. It's like, no, some of those are like actively your decisions. Like you've died at least 3 times that we've seen where it was just kind of a really weird choice to begin with. And it feels like the Kali could definitely be the key to success for the Wargs.
Yeah, I wonder who the target is for Sarpei.
Yeah, because
he's not hitting that guy. He's hitting Azrael. Maybe get lucky. Hopefully Azrael can be the target next time around, or you can select it for yourself. Niflheim Wargs, defensive positioning established as of now, but vision as it is, it's the Styx Ferrymen who control the actual pit of Fire Giant. With neither team having the buff, Fire Giant buff, means that neither team's got just passive sustain. So the only difference really is that map pressure. Good eyes. Fireman and Wave already starting to work their way in towards that Titan. The longer the fight goes, the more it should favor the Wargs. They've got plenty of out-of-combat healing just from Spudio. So every bit of poke that Itori throws out, every bit of prodding that you might see from a Heart Bomb or just the lash from Sarpei at max distance will find some pressure against the Styx Ferrymen. But the Ferrymen have got the opportunity to just turn around one of these fights on a dime, right? One good Fear No Evil could really change the entire engagement.
And we saw that around the tier 1 area on left. Right now it's a Fire Giant start up and then engage from the Ferryman. Fear No Evil not going to be able to find too much. Forces Bevimon's to use the beads. Now the ult. The disengage is still there to send him out. It's not going to be good, but Itori is going to be able to burn down, streak up like it's nothing. Low health bars on a few members of the Ferrymen just have to run away. Azrael can't get out of there. Calvin, incredibly low, does not seem to be the target. Instead, Hawk is going to be in some trouble. Needs the help of his team. But an engage from the Ferryman gone wrong. And now the Fire Giant wide open for the Wargs.
I think that was a 4-man Earthshaker from Itori. I guess that's what it takes to win some of these team fights, and he does it for his squad. Fire Giant enhanced should go their way. Send Sarpei back to base. He can defend that left side Phoenix with ease. Keeps it alive, so now your Titan doesn't need to worry about it. You can just regenerate a bit of the HP there. Keep Itori pushing. That's a great call. Make sure those Fireman waves aren't able to take down your Phoenix just on their own. Niflheim Wargs, again, able to fight themselves through a massive lead the Styx Ferrymen had established for themselves. Doesn't change the fact that the Styx Ferrymen have got the same composition that they did previously on defense. It still is super hard to fight through, but if you can catch them off balance, grab a couple more towers before the respawns roll through, close up a little bit more of that gold gap, Niflheim Wargs find themselves in a decent position. As the game goes on, the gold lead means less and less, 2,000 separating these two squads, but we're already getting 6 slotted on just about everybody. A lot of these relics getting upgraded as well. I think the Wargs are in a very, very good spot. One pick is all they need. I'd like to see Sarpei either initiate, go in aggressive, and utilize that ultimate early on in the fight to stop Ice from following up off of Azrael, or keep Hawk out of there. Or I'd like to see a split push. I think that is a phenomenal answer to a incredibly strong 5v5 defense composition. Don't give them the 5v5. Have one person split off and force them to deal with your Kali. It likely will be Ice, and I can tell you this right now. Ice doesn't want to be put in that position.
No.
Which means that is absolutely a position the Niflheim Wargs are interested in putting Ice in.
Should be pretty strong for him. I mean, you have to imagine. You've got EFG. All you need is a couple of seconds. I mean, you're a Kali, like you said, 6 slotted. Late game, a few seconds under a tower, it's gone. A few seconds under a Phoenix, and it's gone. So maybe that split push will come through. So far, it looks like it based on the positioning on the minimap from the Wargs. Defense has still been there, though, for the Ferrymen, at least in terms of keeping the waves away. You don't need them, but they're still helpful overall, keeping the health bars up. Tier 2 and right, Tier 2 and left. I believe the Tier 1 and right as well had been standing when this Fire Giant started, now all gone. Despite all the money the Wargs have earned, they're still technically 3,000 gold behind where the Ferrymen are. But you can see a massive chunk finally in their favor. The Tier 2 and mid going down, it's going to take it even further to the point where they're now hardly apart. I mean, you could really look at the Fury Pyromancer that they're probably going to have to get on the retreat here. And those are going to be a very easy scoop up and at least high gain at that point.
Love what we're seeing from Sarpei. Drags the attention of 2, Ice and Azrael, actually towards the middle lane. Would have been a good opportunity for the Wargs to immediately initiate on the left, but it was a slight opportunity and one that goes without being optimized on. Slowly poking away at this bird, though. Left side Phoenix, half HP. Sarpei still pressuring mid. Resustains in the jungle, so the work that Ice and Azrael had put in already washed away. Sarpei just needs to stay there and keep Ice there. Keep them away, because the team fight will look good otherwise.
I'm wondering, and I kind of want your opinion on this, but like, if Sarpei died, like, so, you know, blink forward, slam the Phoenix
like at the
as much as you
1v1?
can. Not in the 1v1. You just try to get the Phoenix. Use your ult for a disengage and leap away, but if you die in the process, sometimes it happens.
No way, bro.
Okay, so apparently, reset. Let's roll it back. In the 1v1,
man.
will die. And that gives all the power to the Ferrymen, at least to push forward over here on left. Ice lives, Sarpei gone. And you have 15 seconds left on this Fire Giant that's not going to get a lot of use around the Phoenixes.
Bro, the Kali ain't working, man. We gotta get back to this whiteboard. We gotta figure something out. Bevi tries to make it happen on his own. Calvin in some trouble.
I don't know how bad he's going to feel about this, though. Look at the resurgence from the Ferrymen. Asriel does not have ult just used for the defense. Oh, and they're so lucky there's a minute left on this Fire Giant respawn. Otherwise, I feel like it'd be a beeline straight over there for the Ferrymen. Oh, but it's going to take a little time. You're going to be looking at relics, some that will be down, some, and admittedly most, that are still up. But also ults that are going to be coming back. The Wargs have been able to control that Fire Giant fight. Yeah, where is Ice?
Oh my god.
And the
Yo, these junglers are something else today, bro.
I don't know what playbook they're coming from.
That's Ice! That guy's a legend!
He's literally been on the world's final stage several times, actually. Interesting choice, dying for a red buff. Invade. 37 minutes into the game.
Wow.
So just like all that, the Wargs once again have a very distinct advantage. And Niflheim, you'll never guess it. The Fire Giants respawning right now. And I have a feeling that this one and a 4v3 is pretty easily confirmed for them.
Should be. Better confirmation on composition, numbers advantage around the Fire Giant itself, and really it's burning incredibly quick. I don't know which is... I think Ice's play is legitimately worse, which is tough because he soloed a Kali on defense from behind against an enhanced Fire Giant, right? Like, that's miracle play stuff.
Yeah,
like,
everything you just said there shouldn't have happened.
That sounds like you just won your team the game,
yes.
right? Or at least extended it by 10 minutes. And then he walks the enemy red buff and drops it with enhanced Fire Giant on respawn. I think Ice had a more egregious blunder than Sarpé did. Assuming that the Wargs can break the base. Assuming that is correct.
Yeah.
You got to leave more at the feet of Ice. I hope that Sarpé didn't lose confidence. I hope that Sarpé is still willing to force that 1v1 because that really did nearly do it. All he had to do was not die.
Yeah.
He didn't even have to win the 1v1. As so long as he just kept distracting Ice, his team had already done 70% of that left Phoenix. Just a couple more Cupid autos is all it would have taken, but instead he decided to walk in.
I mean, I'm at the point where I'm on train like blink forward, slam the Phoenix, ult when you need to, and then jump out and hope you survive. Like, if you're gonna die, get something.
Get something.
Unfortunate scenarios.
He flinched. That's what it was, man.
Yeah.
Jump at Ice next time. Jump at It would have been 3 autos to kill that guy, probably. Jump at him, trade out for the 1v1. My man flinched and got 1 for 0'd because of it.
Well, we've talked about the Ferryman defense. We'll have to see. It's already repelled 1 enhanced Fire Giant and 1 regular Fire Giant. Rare is it, Niflheim, that a team can get 2 Fire Giants in a row. And they're the ones that have the weakened Phoenix on their side. We'll see what the Wargs can do here. It's a 3-2 split. You liked this one earlier, and I think you're going to like it even maybe more now that Bevy Monster is going to be there to help out a little bit for Sarpé. But it's all about the poke game. And unfortunately, the poke game is a little stronger from defense here for the Ferrymen.
It's starting to seem like Itori's going to just need to hit another 4-man ultimate. Okay, well, that might just be enough. Phoenix needs to go down now.
Yeah, Hawk, incredibly low, should be out of the fight. No, Ice taken down. That's the 1v1 we wanted to see. And it's the 1v1 the Wargs get. Now, it's an easy Phoenix knockdown. Maybe Sarpé in a little bit of trouble. Streak up. Goes aggressive with the ult. And is going to fall back here. But keeps Sarpé locked in the jungle. Might just be too separated from the team, though. Isolated. Has a Cthulhu by their side. Itori's getting low. Itori's throwing out an ult, but it's so short range. Hits nobody anyway. And the damage, yeah, it's there to kill the Cthulhu. But have you lost too much? Sarpé finally stepping up on the Kali and is able to get another one. That's 4 down. A full minute without the full team here for the Ferrymen. You have to imagine the Wargs are going to just heal up, walk in, and take game number 1 here 40 minutes in.
If anyone could defend, it would be your Merlin. So good in situations like this. Play real far back. He's got beads and Aegis still too. I mean, it's not easy, but he might be able to do something here.
Well, he gets a lot of damage onto Sarpé immediately. The burn is there. He's got good damage, but so far it's only been onto the jungler. Gets 1 kill. Can he find any more? The Titan's incredibly low. No, it's over. It's done. It's game 1 for the Wargs.
40 minutes and 39 seconds between these two squads, just poking and prodding. A couple of questionable interactions may have led to unique positions in this match, but at the end of the day, one team had to come out ahead.
Yeah.
Shout Sarpé. Found that 1v1 really won him the match there.
And you know what? Hey, kicks down the door, finally, for the Wargs. They had been knocking on it for a long time. But he found the warrant, and that was the 1v1. Opens things up and really sets them up as well, and pulls the team out into a weird position. You know, you get that aggressive ult from Streak Up, trying to get something rolling in the jungle to
He
try
made
to
a
fight
4v3.
back.
It was pretty good.
It was looking like it would have been solid, but like you said, he made a 4v3, and sometimes that's all you need. The team's able to win. The Wargs are up 1-0, and we'll see how game number 2 goes right after this. 40 minutes in with a late game Kali, sometimes that's all you need in terms of math to equal a win. And that's what the Wargs get here in game number 1. So, solid play from them to be able to get there. Although, like you said, bumpy roads, I think, for both teams to get to that point. And a step forward for them, right? That is actually the Wargs' first game win so far this phase. And so that's got to be feeling pretty solid for them. Now it's just the question of making it a set win, Mifflin, right? It's coming over that second hurdle, making sure that the Ferrymen don't stop you here. Trying to get the first win and essentially take away a spot, send the other team to be the bottom of EU. And so a really, really solid start for them. And even though it took a little while to get there, and I think we'll see it in the KDA, I believe it was at 1.1-5 for the Kali.
It was.
And I believe ended around 3-5, maybe 4-5.
3-6.
3-6. So makes at least a small turnaround in those last couple of plays, and that's all you needed.
It is quite literally all you needed. They did win. I'm not going to take that away. They could have won 7 minutes sooner and not had to worry about like another Fire Giant dance.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there was no Fire Giant dance because Ice made a similar play at the red buff right before Fire Giant spawned, but I don't know, man. The EU is a region rather that is renowned for slow, methodical play with phenomenal late game compositions that boils down to who's 5-on-5 is just better. This was a match that boiled down to, did Sarpei win a 1v1? If yes, game good. Did Itori hit a 4-man ultimate? If yes, game good. If no to either, game extend. Yeah. And it is a pace that I am just not entirely used to seeing. But you got to give credit where it's due. The Styx Ferrymen's draft was so incredibly strong on base defense that it is very difficult to break them.
And honestly, it's so weird. Like, outside of Fear No Evil, I don't know that I see that team getting that aggressive, right? I mean, that team screams, hold them at the line, right? Like, you are just going to sit there and you are going to be the team fight equivalent of a body block, and they're not going to get any further. We saw it, I mean, over on the tier 2 and the left at one point, and you got to highlight that moment, right? Full 5-on-5 when it could have potentially been 4-1 split with 2 junglers going for a 1v1 around a tier 2. A couple of moments maybe that slipped through there. 17,000 damage. I would remarkably low from the Kali there. I think it was only 100 above the Xing Chen compared to the 30Ks that we saw from everybody else. So not a lot of attacking coming out from Sarpei, but I'll give him the credit that is necessary. In that 17,000 damage was the kill that opened up the base that really allowed the team to start to flourish. And sometimes, again, that's all you need, and we finally got there for them. So the Wargs up 1-0. The question is whether or not they can do it again, right? Find themselves the second win, or if the Ferrymen will tie things up. And Mifflin, it does come down to this conversation of picks and bans, I think, in my mind, which is where do you change things, or do you change things? Some of what it felt like for the Wargs, maybe you could go for some early game aggression, but a lot of it did feel like play on map. If that changes, that game maybe shrinks by 15 minutes.
Yeah, I tend to agree. When a game goes 40 minutes, and when the game is as back and forth as it was, at some points the Niflheim Wargs knocking on the door of the base, at other points it's the Styx Ferrymen with a 7,000-8,000 gold lead. I don't think either team can say, yo, draft needs to change. You could say, hey, this individual player maybe didn't have a performance that was adequate until certain portions of the game. Maybe let's get him on something a bit more comfortable so we can expedite the process, or get him on something that can establish pressure. But there was essentially what seemed to be a handshake agreement in Game 1 between both of these teams that things aren't popping until the 20-minute mark, and things didn't pop until the 20-minute mark. In that situation, I think that I would be comfortable as team captain for either the Ferrymen or the Wargs to just say, let's draft another late game 5-on-5 draft, and let's aim for that point. Let's try and clean it up and make sure that once we do have our lead, we're not throwing it. Or if you're the Ferry or the Wargs in that regard, let's make sure that the Ferrymen don't establish the same lead that they did, and we can have a little bit more elongated battles around these objectives, have some actual objective dances, and see how those pan out.
Well, we get the Khepri, Hades, Terra bands coming out from the Wargs this time. Umoja, Ratatoskr, Daji. Ratatoskr has been one, granted, again, actually the exact same bands there from, I believe, both squads, even though they've swapped positions. The Chernobog's the first pick once again, but Ymir banned out in the second phase last game, locked in instantly by the Styx Ferrymen. Alongside the Vulcan. The Vulcan looked really good for Itori. Lots of good damage out there, but one 4-man ult that literally won them a fight. And it turns out that that is something maybe is going to be highly coveted here in Europe. And should be, right? I think we've actually seen the conversation. A lot of these mid laners in the SBL talking about the fact that, I mean, if you're playing a mage, you're playing the Morgan, you're playing Vulcan. Otherwise, if you're not playing a carry, a hunter, you're probably wasting your team's time.
Yeah, it's either a hunter, set, or one of those two mages.
Yes.
As of now, it's one of those two mages, Vulcan locked in for the Styx Ferrymen. And I think a smart takeaway, but surprised that the Wargs in that position, like, don't even consider a double hunter draft. If I'm right here, I'm thinking, yo, AMC looks pretty good.
AMC do be looking good.
Pretty decent matchup into the Vulcan. You're just going to return that damage a little bit faster. You've got late game scaling. If you are aiming for a late game team fight, double hunter compositions are pretty difficult to beat. It would dissuade the Styx Ferrymen from even considering going towards something like a Cthulhu. Instead, it's a Thor lock-in, which is a pick that I've been singing the praises of for weeks now. Ever since his most recent buffs, I think that god is incredibly strong. Having damage on the wall means that his wall now procs item effects. Having his wall proc item effects means you're getting more Crusher procs, more Heartseeker procs, more consistent DPS, and it just is incredibly strong. Back in the day when Thor was meta, previously it was, he's really good for the first 20 minutes. Once you're around level 16, 17, Thor starts to fall off. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think Thor is good all the way through, will always be a strong initiator for your team, and it does have some decent matchups already into the Ferryman. The Thor into Vulcan feels pretty all right. You can't self-peel with that meatball. Berserker's Barrage being knock-up immune means you're just sticking to him.
And it is always interesting, and it's something I've always thought about specifically with Thor, because like it feels like he wants to be, in a way, a teamfight god. It's very interesting to me that because you kind of highlighted it, and for a while that's exactly what we saw, right? 20 minutes, and you were done. But like his passive, like I guess it's only 30 physical power, right? Which isn't like a ton. It's not nothing either from his passive, but feels like you just want to get in there and fight. And now that he has more damage everywhere with that CC, feels just better all around. And we do get a somewhat double hunter built around him, but instead of stacking up with 4 physical, we get the Chernobog, the Thor, the Guan Yu we knew about, the Soul, and the Xing Qin locked in there for the Wargs. They banned out the Hunbats and the Cthulhu. The other side, the Amaterasu and the Fenrir close things out with the Frey and the Ganesh being banned away. And the Fenrir is one that, again, it has been very, very big in specifically Europe. Only a couple of players, I think, that have been playing him, but he has a lot of potential that he can bring.
He does. Fenrir is, I got rolling early, so I continued to roll. Or I didn't get to do a whole lot, and I became a Ragnarok bot for my team.
Yep.
You're at least forcing probably like a 5 beads pickup from the Wargs, if I had to guess. So you're getting value just from that, locking in your Fenrir.
That, plus you've got the Ymir, plus an Amaterasu. Yeah, it feels like you got plenty of CC. We'll see if it works out well in game number 2 here. We'll try to see if the Ferrymen can match that one, get their second win of the phase when it comes down to games, or the Wargs will beat them to it. A lot of that's going to matter here. Sarpei now on the Thor after the Kali. Feels like something that can get a lot more active a lot quicker, while still having, at this point, as you had highlighted, with all those procs, the items, and maybe playing into it, a very solid and much more comfortable late game than he used to have. Plus, you've got a Soul and a Chernobog next to you, Xing Qin and a Guan Yu. Feels like a really good late game team composition, and specifically siege composition for the Wargs.
But it is high execution. Soul has AoE damage, but it's not standard mage AoE. A lot of her DPS does come from auto attacks, and that's one of the most difficult ways to apply your DPS, and especially in a competitive match, because it's so easy to either itemize against it or have one of your tanks frontline very well. So a little bit more difficult for Itori to find those massive game-changing ultimates like we saw in Game 1. Double hunter draft, even physical or magical, does mean that your siege is at least a lot better. As you said, you've got great objective burn too, but not as strong objective secure as you did in the previous. Instead, now that does belong to Hawk on the other side. Vulcan, exact same Earthshaker situation, so potential to play around that one. And the conversation around whether or not Thor is strong, I think, is important, and Thor is certainly strong. But Thor is one of the most up and down, hot and cold junglers that you can play, period. Are you landing your double tap consistently? Sure, you're looking pretty good. Can you do that consistently and competitive? It's not always up to you.
That one gets, chosen for you. I actually really like that idea, where it's something that, as hard as you might try, sometimes it's just not going to connect the way you would want. Similar to how that freeze didn't connect maybe the way Calvin would have wanted. But pressure, we talked about this in duo lane. That's where first blood happened last time, about 4.5 in. And a Ymir, Ishtar lane, going up against the Xingqian Chernabog. Feels like Ymir Ishtar might have more, but it might be instead danger in mid. Immunity's going to wave out, but no, they shoot a little too soon. Luckily, the Ragnarok just sticks to the target, and Itori goes down early for first blood.
I like that call from Ice too, hedging his bet, saying, it's pretty unlikely Sarpei has wall right now, but if he does and it loses me first blood, I'm going to be real upset. So pre-beads is for the Brutalize regardless, and make sure that there really was no counterplay available. Styx Ferrymen strike early in this one, and a first blood on a Fenrir does not bode well for the enemy team. Fenrir is a god that, given a couple level lead, if you're maxing out like Unchained, you can really just start rolling through the entire map. His DPS skyrockets exponentially, even with just 1 or 2 items.
Yeah, I think this is something that Ice specifically has been seen to run rampant on in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up happening here. We kind of glanced over it, and I've been not necessarily like avoiding it, but we've seen Amaterasu and we've seen Ama a little bit in the SBL, but she hasn't been like the most prominent solo lane god. Especially just auto attack warriors in general seemingly having fallen off a little bit. So what is it? I mean, outside of just really good teamfight engage. Oh, I guess burn, right? Doesn't she bring a lot of that? Like she's bringing stuff, but it feels very teamfight oriented. A second time for Azrael.
Yeah, I mean, you've got great objective burn, to be sure. It doesn't work against those structures, but the triple auto attack passive of Amaterasu helps out a whole lot around Fire Giant, Pyromancer, and Gold Fury. But you are right that the primary reason you look at Ama is that, for the most part, she's going to hold her own in lane thanks to the self-sustain in her kit, but also that dazzling offensive and how difficult it is to deal with. OG Guan Yu ultimate, essentially, but you can roll through these team fights, get into that back line without anybody really being able to peel you. It's long-channeled CC immunity, highly mobile as well. So I'm not a huge hater on Amaterasu. I don't think that she's like defining the meta. She doesn't control the draft, but certainly does have a home in competitive Smite.
Well, you had mentioned needing beads on this team. Sarpei picked up, beads out. An ult from Hawk just to clear the wave. Allow them to back. Level 5, level 6 now. There, level 5 in the jungle for Ice. Some very comfortable leads because of that first blood for the Ferryman. But Hawk doesn't get out of there. He ults to have the clear and never leaves. So Itori, with the level 5 and a Supernova, makes that one a very, very easy for his team. And for himself.
I can't imagine how that happened to him, right? Like, feels like had he chose to leave, he just would have. Ice now in a 1v1. Sarpei up to the air. Will he reinitiate? Doesn't really have a great target here. Can't dunk Azrael with the CC immunity. Doesn't want to dunk on Ice in case one of those leaps is still available. Be very easy to avoid it. So instead, dunks the blue buff to make sure there's no steal.
Sorry, watching Spuddio dash into the wall to avoid the freeze. Oh, look, as a Ymir player, that's the most frustrating thing in the world. As a spectator, that's funny as hell. I just love that. Like, there's so little times that you get to see that exact dynamic. It feels like both of these gods have not been in the meta at the same time for each other. It's just always fun to me. I'm sorry. That was a genuine laugh.
Yeah,
I'm having
funny
fun.
situation. If I wasn't so busy looking at you, I might have seen it. I'd have been right there with you.
Yeah, he dashed into the wall, man. It's very funny.
And Calvin's gonna have to hold
I'm still
that.
Curious about I'm still curious about mid. I don't know what if you ult to clear the wave.
I'm usually going back to base.
And
yeah.
you're like, and Ice was out of there. Like that, it seemed like the consensus was let's just disengage. Unless Itori did something crazy, they were clearing the wave. But
I mean, how crazy do you consider the 2 ult combo from Soul?
I mean, very crazy. That's the Barra combo.
Okay, I'm so sick of that. I'm told we got a replay. Maybe we'll get that up. But Barracuda can't have that combo. That's not his. All right, so Hawk could certainly back here. Lazy backing.
Is actively
stops his back.
So that's the misplay.
He's still hanging out. I'm sorry, guys. We shouldn't have got that replay, man. Hawk just got he got owned.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and so there was a turning key moment. I think maybe you caught it. He's backing, and then he stops. And that was the last mistake or the first mistake.
And he doesn't stop, like walk up, throw a meatball, then go back to backing. He stops and stands next to his turret while watching Itori kill the turret. Tries to backfire away after the turret dies. Gets clipped by the slow, and then walks straight and dies.
Oh, but Sarpe with a dunk. Unfortunate for the Ferrymen. They're not going to be able to find the lockdown. A couple of stuns. Beads thrown out on the other side from the Thor. Gets him out of there. 2 ults down for 1 on the other side. I guess for 2 if you look at Bevy Monsters. Does not result in a kill either way. This actually brings me to the second point because I saw the other dunk again from Sarpe. Which is going to be the standard question for you, Mifflin. What's your go-to skin to play when you're playing Thor?
Well, it's a boring answer, but I've been playing since like season 1, so it's Righteous Hammer. I saw Adapting and Shing and Zero Gars just changing how people play Smite on Thor with that skin, and I said I want to be like that.
I do not blame you. I think because a lot of competitive skins, I even think the one we're looking at here is the Iron Gaming one, right?
That's right.
From way back when. Maybe we'll see a little more of that. Streak Up's in a little bit of trouble. Good wall from Calvin. Unfortunately, now here walled. He's going to disengage here. It doesn't seem like the team's going to have too much else. Ice just deleted the Supernova. A little too short. Otto's not quite there. Ice. By the skin of his teeth, able to escape that one.
But can the rest of the Styx Ferrymen make their way out as well? Thought maybe we'd see some CC from Spudio there as Bevy Monster goes into those back camps. I suppose you're allowed that opportunity to look for invades like this, realizing how much was utilized on the opposite side of the map. Cavalry charge for a back camp, and not even getting the back camp, though. Pretty heavy investment. Could be an opportunity now for Ice to rotate through with Ragnarok and see if maybe you could drag Bevy into that tower. But it's not for lack of trying that we haven't seen kills from either of these teams. It's been pretty aggressive play across the board as Gold Fury is pulled out. Really?
And nobody nearby, no one to spot it out, nothing to worry about. It's taken a while.
That's 9-10. It's not taking that long.
Well, yeah, not forever, but 9 minutes in, the Ferrymen playing aggressive and being successful because of it.
That's the classic right there. Just Thor goes up in the air. He's like, I'm scouting, guys. If I see anybody, I'll dunk them. I'll let you know. Nobody's here. Sorry.
Not a soul inside. They all just got Gold Fury and back.
Well, there was a soul inside.
There was. Oh, good point.
That's right.
There was,
that one hit.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why that one hit so hard. It came back in a wave too. It wasn't like the initial one was like, yeah, okay, sure. And then the second I thought about it again, I was like, damn, that was really just good. Like, you just got me.
Very Matt Groening-esque humor, right? Just standard, just pun play.
Yeah, straight and like very straight delivery on it.
That's right.
That's good work by you.
Appreciate it.
But it's 1-1. 1,000 gold in favor of the Ferrymen. Maybe a little bit more if they can get some of these invades going the way they want to. Wall comes up, blocks off Kha'Zix, but then Kha'Zix leaps over the wall. And it feels like it might be some lockdown for the Ferrymen, but there's a rotation coming out. Doesn't seem like too much is going to be going on here. So they're going to back off, go back to farming. I mean, already, first off, a second kill way quicker in this game than we did in game number 1. But the Gold Fury at 9 minutes, I mean, that's just good play from the Ferrymen to recognize that they have a small advantage they need to leverage.
Just a couple of backs on the map. I think we saw maybe a couple members from the Wargs head back to base on map, potentially, and the Ferrymen say, okay, well, we could pull it, and if anybody shows up, we'll reset. If nobody shows up, awesome, free objective, and it was the latter. So the 6 Ferrymen do make out like bandits there. But when you find tiny leads and you don't do much to extend your tiny lead,
Yeah.
all you got is
A
a tiny lead. And 800 gold split between 5 people is negligible. Generally, it's, hey, we removed the Gold Fury, so now there's no counterplay potential. Let's go to the Pyromancer. We don't have to concern ourselves with a trade. We've got pretty decent confirmation. That'll push our lead to a point where now we're like maybe a tier 1 item or even a tier 2 item over everybody else. We can, leverage that enhanced power that we've got or defense to look at objectives or look at red buff invades or back camps or something on the map, and all of a sudden our half item lead is a full item lead, and now it's even harder to play into us. Instead it was, man, we got Gold Fury.
Nice. And like you said, when you get it, especially when you get it in 9 minutes and 10 minutes at the pace this is going, that 1,000 gold means nothing. In fact, even right now, that 1,000 gold kind of means nothing. Ooh, you bought a ward maybe more than the other side. CC immunity, shards of ice used by Calvin. Kha'Zix tries to get the grab. There's some damage. And it's a little bit for them. There's going to be the dunk deep from Sarpe. Stun's good. Kha'Zix just trying to stay alive. Ice going to be able to chase that down. Support for support. But then the jungle gets thrown out there as well. Ice commits hard to the kill. Gets it, but loses his life for it.
2 for 1 favoring the Wargs here, but does at least open some opportunities over to Streak Up. If Spudio wants to use that ultimate to get involved elsewhere on the map, need to make sure some of that farm's already been cleared out. Itori getting very aggressive here. Hawk taking a lot of damage. No ultimate available, so the Soul shouldn't be able to do much more from here. A combo from either would end either's life. Sarpe, though, not going to respect the 1v1. Walks in, gets both relics and the red buff. Immediate disengage afterward. Clean win for the Wargs.
That might have been the most, the best hammer wall combo. I mean, with how much he just got off of that is fantastic value for 2 abilities, and they're not even the high cooldown ones. Granted, the ult was used slightly prior to that, so Sarpe going to be waiting a little bit on that moment. You had mentioned it. If you're a team, in this case, like the Ferrymen, you get the Gold Fury. Usually use that to go for the Pyro. Instead, the Wargs walk up, get the Pyro, although Azrael tries for a little bit more.
Yikes.
And then just a delete button onto Sarpe. It is an unfortunate moment, that wall lasting as long as it did, and just not being able to escape. Unfortunate for Thor, and maybe a small consolation prize for the Ferryman.
I think a trade Sarpe is willing to take, though. Pyromancer for 1, even if that 1 is your jungler, still value. Sarpe not even necessarily all that behind, maybe a half level. Ice just now ticking over to 12. We'll see what relic Ice decides to pick up. I imagine it will be a blink, just so you can get those Ragnaroks a little bit more consistently.
Yeah.
Especially now with Itori's ultimate, or beads down rather. You want to be able to close that gap. Still does have access to the ultimate though. That CC immunity. A little bit more difficult to utilize up against Fenrir. Styx Ferryman still maintain the exact same gold lead at the end of the day. It's still 1,000 separating these squads. Experience a little bit more important as of now, but with the pacing of the game as it is, I imagine we'll probably get a bit more parity, a little equality insofar as experience before the next major team fight. Primal Fury has spawned up, so positioning around it, very, very important. Vision around it, very important as well. Neither team significantly advantaged in that regard. Maybe a bit more offensive wards from Styx Ferryman deep on that left side jungle.
Man, those wards are offensive. They said some mean things.
What'd they say?
I had nothing to say for broadcast.
Whew.
Yeah. I mean, they were offensive, man.
Yeah, I know, you're right.
The FCC would have a day with them. I was thinking there was going to be a fight, and that was going to save me from that not great joke, but unfortunately, Sarpe just falls back, and nothing comes out of that one. The Iron Gamer Thor. Which, going back to it, and maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to anyway, double dipping.
Are you going to talk about the offensive wards again?
No, I was going to talk about Thor's, the skins that he has.
All 30 of them?
Not all of them. I was going to ask you about, Blood Eagle, because I feel like it used to be you either were the Recolor, you were Iron Gamer, or you were Blood Eagle. And there was a lot of contention around there. Now the Fury goes up. The Ferrymen secure that one pretty easily thanks to Vulcan. And they're going to keep this one relatively close. Look, 3-3 for the kills. 400 gold maybe separating these teams. A kill onto Calvin could be a nice little pickup for the Wargs. Still one for Fury, but maybe didn't even need to be the one. Unfortunate lingering from the Ferrymen. Give that kill over.
I might just run down Fire Giant right here. I know it's only 16 minutes in, but double Hunter composition, you're already grouped up. A tier 2 tower is pretty nice too.
And they got the minion wave.
They've got the minion wave, but have they got the actual ability to take down this tower? Hawk in some trouble. Beazriel separates the fight. Sarpei forced to use those beads. Should likely die here.
Yeah, with the pickup coming down, small hammer, but not enough to close the gap. Ishtar, credit for the kill. Ice gets out of there. Feels like maybe there could have been an opening, but a really good rotation from Azriel. Really good ult from Azriel specifically. Puts on the pressure. Maybe too much of a dive under the tier 2. I mean, you were talking about the Fire Giant, and it feels like there's a window of opportunity and maybe a world we live in where the Wargs just sweep the Ferrymen right there. But it feels like that like you said, the execution, you mentioned that earlier, maybe a little too high to try and make that work under a tier 2 at 16 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough thought exercise, but I think having gone to the Fire Giant, you don't have to worry about the counter rotation from the Ferrymen nearly as much. Instead, the Niflheim Wargs meet them halfway, right? We'll go to your tier 2 tower. You're coming back from base. It's a little bit easier for the Ferrymen to get back and involved in that team fight. Hawk was already there defending the tower, so it's an unofficial second man in the tier 2. Very difficult to find great plays in that position this early on. But had you gone to the Fire Giant, sure, you might have to contend with the counter rotation, but you're at least able to take a more even team fight rather than having to dive.
Yeah, something that gives you a little bit to work with. Unfortunately, Itori, nothing to work with now. Life taken. Ult not available and is going to be stuck in an awkward spot there. Spudio is low as well. Don't think Streak Up has a lot of potential there without dying under the tier 2. But you've got the full trebuchet over there, at least a half health trebuchet over there. Feels like a good opportunity. Leap in from Ice in mid. Not going to find any stuns. So far, it's just a small kill. Pyromancer's about to come up. This could be a nice opening for the Ferrymen.
Yeah, Itori's still dead for 15 seconds. As you said, Pyromancer should start blinking very shortly. I'd love to see the Ferrymen group up here. And with Ishtar on this side of the map, Streak Up already making the rotation, could be a target for him, but instead, it's red buff invaded by Sarpei and Spudio. And an easy pickup. Pyromancer still pulled out, but I don't love your odds as much without Vulcan.
No. Ferryman, though, still able to secure it. Vulcan, as you mentioned, down. Can they get anything else? Sarpei's low hammer is going to be good to get out of one fight. Unfortunately, Azrael was waiting for another. Bevy Monster walled away, stunned down by the Amaterasu. And that's sometimes all that is necessary. Killed off. And with that kind of opening, you would maybe think, especially with that grouping, Fire Giant, but it seems like it's going to be a back from the Ferryman.
So, in that position, we know for a fact on the side of the Niflheim Wargs that Styx Ferrymen are on the Pyromancer. That was communicated after the pick onto Hawk. Spudio decides not to rotate with his team, instead dedicates himself to the split push. So the Niflheim Wargs, with a numbers advantage, decide to equalize the fight on their own to split push. Get a 4-on-4. Goes the way of the Ferryman. You do get the tier 2 tower, but now Spudio's dead for a half minute with Fire Giant on the map. Just gotta think Styx Ferrymen are running down Fire Giant. Maybe you're saying, okay, well, Spudio might be dead for a half minute, but on respawn, he'll have ultimate, so we can get to that fight pretty quickly. I'm just not certain. I would have much preferred to see Spudio just rotate through with Sarpei.
And try to find some sort of fight. Speaking of fight, there's a lot of damage. Hawk deleted from the backline. Fire Giant, it feels great when the Vulcan's there. But no ult usage or relic usage comes out from the mid laner. Unfortunately for the Wargs, they lose 2 in the process. Itori needs to get some of this damage. There's going to be Ice up into the ultimate, and there's the chomp to get the kill. Spudio back, ult into the fight, and is able to make this a 3-for-2 trade. The Ferryman's still coming out on top of this one.
Can they find anything on the map? Streak Up still alive means that you've got threat on the objective itself. Azrael could tank it up. Spudio still maintaining some presence on map just to make sure that there isn't a Fire Giant pull. This call much safer from the Styx Ferrymen. Take out that tier 1 tower. Sure, less returns, but still something in that 3-man death that they force onto the Niflheim Wargs. Oni Fury as well could go a long way. This is phenomenal for splitting up the map, generating pressure without having to actually dedicate a body to pushing one of these lanes. Makes it very, very easy to start looking at that Fire Giant in sync with the respawn timers on the side of the Styx Ferrymen. Means that they can head back to base, spend up some of that gold from the fight, start walking towards the Fire Giant. By the time they get there, the enhanced minion waves should be meeting up with the minion waves of the Niflheim Wargs. There are small answers the Wargs can come up with, though. Have Spudio push out some of these enhanced waves, then ult to the fight. If it starts to look good for the Wargs, Sarpei, to a lesser extent, can make that exact same play. But instead, it's the Ferrymen playing very slow on the map. They've got phenomenal vision coverage around the Fire Giant, actually controlling the entirety of the right-hand side of the map. So they are aware of Kha'Zix standing just nearby, but they've got their eyes more so on carries. I've got my eyes on Itori. Just separates down, and he's walking into Ice Ice.
Yeah, Ice Ice, good stun. There's the ult as well. Great wall. Locks things off. Sarpei going up into the sky. Has to be looking for the jungler. Goes deep, finds Hawk. There's going to be the Aegis used by both the jungler and the mid laner. Sarpei frozen out. Sarpei killed off. Ice Ice alive and walking away right now. Hawk still in a great position despite the relics being used. Bevy Monster goes deep and is trying to get the healing for his team. Ice Ice backs up, gets the healing necessary from the fountain. Kha'Zix is low, but is finding the disengage. They lose Sarpei, and they don't get anything for it.
Ice Ice plays slow around the Ragnarok, trying to wait out the CC immunity from Itori, but in just not going for the DPS trade. I think had he just chomped down, started channeling Ragnarok, he probably wins that battle up against Itori, even through the ultimate of Soul. But instead, gives some time over to the Niflheim Wargs to start their rotation, their counter-rotation. So Ice Ice forced to disengage. Fortunately, Sarpei, fortunately for the Styx Ferrymen that is, whiffs the ultimate onto Ice Ice, connects with Hawk, and loses his life. And now the Styx Ferrymen, opportunity to pull the fire, burn it quick.
Fire already incredibly low. At this point, I honestly maybe like the idea. Do this! Yes, just pick it up and try to take it. The Wargs are going to get the Fire Giant here 23 minutes in, and now it is just a question of staying alive. All 5 members have it. Great wall from Sarpei, and it's going to be a walk away. You've got the Vulcan, the ult. They wanted the disengage. Sarpei into the skies. They have to be leaving here just to keep the team going, team alive, and now maybe a little bit stronger. Even though they're down in gold, the Wargs get the FG.
That is absolutely crazy disengage attempt from the Styx Ferrymen. When the Fire Giant's sub 30%, you gotta realize that's something the Niflheim Wargs are absolutely capable of. And when I look at the ultimate cooldowns on the side of the Styx Ferrymen,
the whole time.
Yeah, that's probably the most frustrating part. The steal, phenomenal. Well executed by the Niflheim Wargs. But the execution was this. Itori walked up and started autoing.
Yes.
That's legitimately all it was. Space control belongs to the Styx Ferrymen. A wall stops that from happening. An ultimate from Hawk stops that from happening. Azriel creating some space stops that from happening. Even just coin tossing and auto-attacking the Fire Giant yourself could very well stop that from happening. But maybe tunnel vision, the Styx Ferrymen worried about the engage from Kha'Zix and Bevy. The separation enough from them that you just try and walk yourselves out of there. But you also had complete knowledge. Normally I get to say, well, casters have hindsight. We've got the bird's eye view. We knew things that, you know, the Styx Ferrymen weren't privy to because we got to see the entirety of the map. But looking at the vision that was on the side, or the right-hand side of the map, Styx Ferrymen had as close to perfect knowledge as you could hope for around a Fire Giant play like that. Massive misplay that could very well come back and bite them.
You know, we'll have to see what the Wargs can do to open this, right? 3,000 gold down, so they've got a lot of work to do. And admittedly, 3,000 gold that exists just in towers, they could maybe knock down with the Fire Giant. 23 minutes, right? Very similar to last time around, except you don't have a late-game Kali, and that you're still going to be struggling a little bit with those backdoor protections. I'm trying to figure out how this team can get in there, maybe get a little more aggressive, or where their opening's going to be. It's 5-on-5 again, very similar to last time. Ice Ice Going for a deep loop around.
Uh-oh, that was good.
Might not get spotted. There's going to be the engage. Sarpé has to fall back. Ice leaps in. There's a good ult, but not going to find a lot of damage from Hawk. Now, just trying to stay alive. Spuddio, good dunk from the Thor, but immediate demise afterward. An unfortunate scenario for Sarpé. Now just trying to find something to return the favor. They get a kill on the Calvin. 1 for 1. Azriel low, forced out of the fight. Numbers advantage, healing advantage, Fire Giant advantage. Still there for the Wargs, and they're going to pressure out the tier 2.
4v4 and working their way forward. Kha'Zix blinks in, catches Streak up, slacking, and gets caught out immediately. No peel from Hawk or Ice. So now it's a 4 versus 3 Fire Giant, still for another 50 seconds, and they're just getting healthier. The Niflheim Wargs in a great spot.
Man, a full minute without Streak up. You just have to be able to balance this properly. Maybe go for the kill, but you've got the double Hunter play still. With the double auto attackers, it feels like it can be a very, very wide open Phoenix for him. They just have to be able to, once again, balance it out. Ice, looking for something.
Ooh.
Taking too much. Bevy, there's the hit, and there's the kill picked up for them. A little bit of focus, though, on the fight. Itori poked out. The Phoenix is going to remain standing for now.
I don't know. I mean, you're very low, but Soul's got re-sustain. Guan Yu's got team sustain. And Fire Giant for another 10 seconds. Ice dead for 50. I'd love to see this siege continue. That's exactly what's going to happen. The Niflheim Wargs start stepping forward once more. The only thing they need to concern themselves is how the Styx Ferrymen engaged the previous fight. Can't allow Streak Up to get another 2-3-man stun. Posture towards the Phoenix. Loop back through the right jungle. We're done. Instead, maybe a tier 2 tower on right. Not even there. The Niflheim Wargs just going to let Ice respawn, reset themselves back to neutral. At least head back to base, buy some wards, and get ready for the Fire Giant. That's spawning in 30 seconds. You haven't reset just yet. Kha'Zix still half HP, still no resets from the Niflheim Wargs. Having not taken a single Phoenix, the Styx Ferrymen still in the lead as well. The Niflheim Wargs get no advantage state. They just maneuver the entire map and get a Fury. Helpful, to be sure, but it's so much easier to defend a position than it is to fight into it. And now it's the Styx Ferrymen who show up, and I guarantee you this is what Azriel is saying. All right, guys, I'm walking into the Fire Giant. I'll be real careful, just in case the wards are here. Wait, nobody's here. They drop some wards. They're like, wait, no wards are here either. Now we get to defend. It's such a good position for the Ferrymen. They're just pulling the fire.
Yeah, makes way more sense to do this, but are they going to let it go again? It's at half health this time. Will anybody on the side of the Wargs pick it up? No, they're looking for the fight instead. Wall just a little off the mark. Hammer not going to connect from Sarpé. A lot of damage. Missed on the Ice. Still forces the Fenrir to play carefully. Gets the Magi's, so a minute. Well, technically 19 seconds without the CC immunity from an item with the beads coming back up. But 2 ults down on the side of the Wargs. Good engage, good chase down. The Ferryman trying to stay aggressive. Pyromancer's eating some autos here. It's going to be the Xing Qin of the backline. Ice takes some poke here from Sarpé. Sarpé wants a little bit more. It's a deep dive from Kha'Zix and Bevy, though, on to Hawk. And they want to kill this Vulcan. They want to get to him badly. Itori takes way too much damage, though. Nobody peeling for the mid laner. Azriel just walks up to him, kills him off, and gets the first kill. Now, it's a matter of turning things back around if you're the Wargs. You got the last Fire Giant. You want to control this one if you can, but it is the Ferrymen still in charge. Couple channeling their backs. There's going to be the up, the down, just off the mark from Sarpé. So it's going to be the 1 kill and a retreat from both sides.
Great jukes from Hawk in that fight. Just completely dodges out Itori's ultimate. Pass away from Sarpé, so Thor can't really get involved either. An overextension from the Niflheim Wargs trying to finish off the kill on the Vulcan. Cost them greatly. Itori stepping up much, much too far in that fight. Loses his life. Styx Ferrymen now, yet again, get to try and pull for the Fire Giant. This time with a numbers advantage.
Leap in. Kha'Zix, immediate pull away from the Fire Giant. Bevy is getting some pressure out there. Hawk uses the ultimate. It gets some damage, and Bevy is isolated, killed off. The team's going to resume the Fire Giant, but now much more coin tossy than it was before. Kha'Zix just playing distraction. Fire Giant's leashed, great wall, and then a great 5-man pickup and throw. Look, it doesn't matter that nothing's coming from it. There's a little wall from the Thor. Nice mez. I cannot believe this. Kha'Zix is walking away.
Ice had beads. I'm thinking Ice should have used his beads there. I mean, like, your life's not under threat, but killing that guy is super value. Now it's the Niflheim Wargs who take the Fire Giant for themselves. Ice jumps forward with an attempted steal instead of just trying to stop them from doing the Giant. Good luck out-confirming Itori. Crazy, man. A crazy sequence. To break down the last 5 minutes, the Niflheim Wargs get Fire Giant, find a pick, don't siege the Phoenix, don't siege the Tier 2 tower, go over to the Fury, don't buy wards, don't ward the Fire Giant. The 6 Ferrymen respawn, go to the Fire Giant, establish defensive positioning, and then from there, it's a 1-for-0 trade favoring the Ferrymen. They pull the Fire Giant again, and the Niflheim Wargs just make it out alive. Kha'Zix 5-man ultimates for a self-peel. Ice says didn't need him. Catch and release, I won't be beadsing this. And now it's the Wargs with Fire Giant on 4. Starting their siege in earnest once more. Wild stuff, dude. Smite's a crazy game. 10 years. 10 years I've been playing this, and I haven't seen a pace like this just about ever.
It's been wild. It's been maybe the most interesting ride, watching how things have shaken. 5 kills down, but now finally 1,000 gold up for the Wargs. First lead they've had maybe all game. And so it is a nice
good poke.
Position to
That's
be
massive, actually.
Sarpei could go up into the air, and that's going to be where the Thor starts this engagement. Kha'Zix, you get one 5-man ult, and sometimes that's all that matters. Streak up, in trouble, double tap, and Sarpei opens the door one more time with the EFG. The team takes the left side Phoenix, and it's just about staying alive. Spudio up into the air right before Hawk's ult connects, and now it is all engaged from the Wargs, running down the Ferrymen, locking them in their fountain, but they don't feel confident yet on the Titan. They pull back, even though they have the numbers advantage. 5v3, mid-Phoenix might be the target unless Kha'Zix can set up something insane, and something insane might just be coming. What a wall! Ice leaps in, but Ice burned down. The damage good from the Wargs. Now 5v2. You have to imagine something they can do here. A little bit low health bar. Sarpei eats a meatball to the face, and unfortunately that one is going to take him out of there. But with the damage left from the rest of the team, the Wargs are going to walk to the Titan. Hawk has something to say about this. You got to DPS the Titan a little bit more here. With the ult down, Hawk locked away, Azrael gone. The Wargs find a 2-0.
That crazy end, too, where it's like, are you guys farming kills? Are you just struggling to hit the Titan? What's going on? But at the end of the day, I gotta say it, man. Sarpei dominated the very last 3 minutes of both games this set. My man's a slow starter, all right? But once he gets started, he changes that fight. Half health's Hawk to start it off, goes in, finds the solo kill, 1 versus 4, and then survives afterward as well. The Thor looked very good for the last sequence of that match. Congratulations to the boys for their first dub. It was a hard-fought battle.
Yeah, I'm, again, I think stoked to see them not only come in, again, putting this into perspective, both of these teams 0-3 in the standings, stepping into this set. Only 1 game win individually between the 2 of them, and it was the Ferrymen that had that one. The Wargs double that amount all in one go. They find their first win of the phase. And like you said, Mifflin, maybe not the cleanest couple of games that you would like to hang your hat on. Maybe not a lot that you're throwing into the highlight reel, but a lot of good moments for the Wargs that maybe shouldn't have happened. I mean, the first Fire Giant's the immediate thing that comes to my mind, where the Ferryman just left it at 30%, and then Itori says, yo, that's cool, I'll take that. Let's go.
And he did, with a couple of auto attacks.
Oh, I forgot this happened. Oh, no.
Yeah, Hawk decided that his turret was his homie, and he was wrong. When my turret don't got my back, who do? Nobody. You got soloed at your tower. That is wild.
So long.
After ulting the wave, by the way. He ulted the wave.
And he was backing.
Okay. And he was backing, and then he canceled his back. But look, man, there are certainly highlight plays to be sure, right? Itori hit a 4-man ultimate in game 1.
Kha'Zix's ult.
Yeah, Kha'Zix's 5-man ultimate on the right-hand side. Ice had a couple of pretty cool plays, like that 1v1 up against Sarpei in game 1 as well. So there are some highlights.
Look at this.
Yeah, this is the one.
Should be dead. Just
turns it.
Just grabs all
Ice
5.
has beads, doesn't use it.
And
just
then
walks out.
That's just, look. It's not often that you get to highlight a support play, because like, is that a triple kill? Is it set up for kills? No. But it gets him out alive. It's so nuts how well that worked out for him. Like you said, maybe there are moments, beads, I think you had mentioned for Ice, could have been popped. Maybe you could have opened things up. Not even maybe the cleanest slash lines all around. But the Wargs come out on top this time, Niflheim, and look, they've changed up and shake up the standings in Europe and make it a fun show for us nonetheless. So I've been excited to watch that one. And it doubles the amount of damage. Well, maybe not doubles. About, what, 8,000 more damage this game on the Thor than we got on the Kali in 40.
Yeah, Sarpei looked very good on that Thor this match. A couple of ultimates through the early game maybe don't connect, but one massive ultimate like we saw in that Phoenix Siege is all it takes to clear the air, as far as I'm concerned. The Niflheim Wargs now in a position where if they're able to win out the next couple of weeks, could really shake up the standings as well. Potential to jump, I believe, 2, maybe 3 seeds as these sets go on. So if you're a Niflheim Wargs fan, you're concerned about the pacing of their season so far, the split rather, don't concern yourself too much. They've got the opportunity to keep jumping up. Whereas on the other side, it's going to be pretty difficult to see some seed jumping from them.
Yeah, I think it's something that, again, a lot of fun. If you're looking at the way things are going, in fact, we could look at the first off, the standings, the schedule, how things are going today. The 2-0 for the Wargs here starts things off well. Mambo Scorpions up next, Ravens Gladiators a little later today. And of course, if you take a look at the standings, where these teams end up after, I believe, so this will be, the 4th set for for everybody. So next week's the last week, single round robin. Every one of these teams on your screen is going to be playing during their Road to Worlds for the SCC Championships in December. And it'll be top 2 from 2 different groups that end up making it there. It's a detailed event. You should check it out on the blog. I think that's most important to me. Not only is it the chance to go to Worlds, it's also a pretty hefty paycheck that I see right here. The prize pool that is going to be there, and I feel like that in and of itself is a lot of motivation. Yeah, these 6 teams plus 2 SOC teams going to duke it out, 2 groups into a bracket stage. A lot of fun that is going to be had. But if you can change your seeding, you can change which group you get thrown into, you can change your personal capabilities and potentially opportunities to make it into those top 4, move your way onto Worlds, things like that. All going to be important, of course, all on these teams' minds. But for right now, it is just week number 4. That's set number 1. We're going to move to set number 2, though, right after this.